What if everything you've been told about becoming rich is wrong? For decades, we've heard the same advice. Study hard, get good grades, find a stable job, work harder than everyone else, save your money, and eventually, you'll become wealthy. It sounds reasonable, yet reality tells a very different story. Millions of people work incredibly hard. Every single day, they wake up before sunrise, work long hours, take extra shifts, sacrifice weekends, and still struggle financially. Meanwhile, a small group of people build fortunes worth billions of dollars, not millions. Billions. So what separates them? Is it intelligence, luck, education, or is there something else hidden beneath the surface? Because if hard work alone created billionaires, construction workers, nurses, factory employees, and farmers would dominate every list of the world's richest people, but they don't. And if education alone guaranteed extraordinary wealth, every university professor would be a billionaire. Yet, that's rarely the case. Clearly, something is missing, and that missing piece has almost nothing to do with working longer hours. Over the years, economists, psychologists, and business researchers have studied the lives of hundreds of self-made billionaires. Although they came from different countries, different cultures, different industries, they repeatedly discovered the same patterns. The names change, the businesses change, the time periods change, but the principles remain surprisingly consistent. This documentary isn't about selling false hope. There is no magical formula that guarantees billionaire status. No secret investment, no hidden shortcut. Becoming a billionaire requires extraordinary execution, exceptional timing, relentless persistence, and sometimes a measure of luck. But despite those uncertainties, history reveals something fascinating. The people who build extraordinary wealth often think differently long before they become wealthy. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. They ask different questions, they make different decisions. And over decades, those decisions compound into results that appear almost impossible from the outside. Today, we're going to uncover those patterns, not to promise overnight success, but to understand how some of the most successful entrepreneurs in history built fortunes that transformed industries and, in many cases, the world itself. Because once you understand how wealth is truly created, you'll never look at money the same way again. Chapter 1: The biggest myth about wealth. Let's start with one of the biggest financial myths ever created. Most people believe wealth comes from earning a high income. It sounds logical. Earn more money, save more money, become rich. But history tells a different story. Around the world, there are doctors earning hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, lawyers with prestigious careers, professional athletes, corporate executives. Many enjoy impressive salaries, yet only a tiny percentage ever become billionaires. Why? Because income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is money you earn. Wealth is what continues to grow, even when you're no longer working. That difference changes everything. Imagine two people. The first earns $400,000 every year. They buy luxury cars, upgrade to a larger home, take expensive vacations. Each raise leads to a more expensive lifestyle. On paper, they look successful. Now imagine someone earning far less. Instead of increasing their spending, they invest in businesses. They buy productive assets. They own shares in companies. They create systems that generate income without requiring their constant attention. Fast forward 20 years. Who is more likely to become truly wealthy? History suggests it isn't always the person with the biggest paycheck. It's the person who owns assets capable of growing independently. This is one of the first lessons shared by many self-made billionaires. They don't focus only on earning money. They focus on owning things that create value. Because salaries usually stop when you stop working, ownership doesn't. A successful business continues serving customers. Investments continue compounding. Intellectual property keeps generating royalties. Technology continues scaling. Ownership allows wealth to grow beyond the limits of your personal time. And that's one reason billionaires think differently. They don't simply ask, how can I make more money? Instead, they ask, how can I build something that creates value for years to come? That single question has launched some of the most successful companies in history. But ownership alone isn't enough. Something even more powerful determines whether wealth grows or disappears. And that brings us to one of the greatest forces in finance, compounding. Most people associate compounding with investing, but billionaire thinking applies compounding everywhere. Knowledge compounds. Skills compound. Experience compounds. Relationships compound. Trust Compounds. Every lesson learned today makes tomorrow's decisions slightly better. Every improvement creates new opportunities. At first, progress seems invisible, much like planting a tree. For months, very little changes. But beneath the surface, the roots continue expanding. Then one day, growth becomes impossible to ignore. Wealth often follows the same pattern. From the outside, success appears sudden. People see the billion-dollar company. The magazine covers. The interviews. The headlines. What they don't see are the thousands of small decisions that quietly accumulated over years, or even decades. This is why so many overnight success stories aren't actually overnight at all. Behind almost every extraordinary achievement lies years of invisible preparation. The world celebrates the outcome, but rarely notices the process, and perhaps that's why so many people misunderstand wealth. They focus on the visible rewards. Billionaires focus on the invisible foundations, because they know something most people never realize. Success isn't built in one extraordinary moment, it's built through thousands of ordinary decisions made consistently over time. That mindset changes everything, because once you stop chasing quick wins, you begin building something that lasts. And that's exactly where our journey continues. In the next chapter, we'll uncover perhaps the most important principle shared by self-made billionaires. They don't chase money, they chase problems. And solving the right problem can become the foundation of extraordinary wealth. Imagine you're given two choices. The first is a secure, high-paying job that guarantees a comfortable income every month. The second is an opportunity to build something that could improve the lives of millions, but there's no guarantee it will succeed. Most people would choose the paycheck. Many self-made billionaires chose the problem, and that single decision changed their lives forever. If you study the world's most successful entrepreneurs, one pattern appears again and again. They didn't become wealthy because they obsessed over money. They became wealthy because they became obsessed with creating value. Money was never the starting point, it was the result. Think about the companies that transformed the modern world. People don't use them simply because they're famous. They use them because those companies solved real problems. The greater the problem solved, the greater the value created. And in business, value eventually attracts wealth. This principle explains why some companies grow from tiny startups into organizations worth hundreds of billions of dollars. They don't just sell products. They solve frustrations. They save time. They reduce costs. They improve lives. Every successful business is essentially a solution to someone's problem. The bigger the solution, the bigger the opportunity. That's why many entrepreneurs ask a completely different question from everyone else. Most people ask, what business should I start? Successful founders ask, what problem desperately needs solving? That subtle difference changes everything, because businesses built around genuine problems are far more likely to survive than businesses created only to make money. Money follows value. Value follows solutions, and solutions begin with understanding people, seeing opportunities others ignore. One of the greatest advantages of successful entrepreneurs is their ability to notice opportunities hidden inside ordinary life. While most people complain about inconvenience, entrepreneurs become curious. Every long queue, every confusing process, every outdated system, every frustrating experience, each one represents a potential opportunity. Most people see irritation. Entrepreneurs see possibility. History is filled with businesses that began with a simple observation. Someone noticed that shopping could be faster. Someone realized communication could be easier. Someone believed transportation could become more efficient. Someone imagined information becoming instantly accessible. At the time, these ideas seemed risky. Today, they feel obvious. That's often how innovation works. The best opportunities usually look uncertain before they become successful. If everyone already recognizes the opportunity, it's probably too late. Successful entrepreneurs train themselves to ask, why is this done this way? Is there a better solution? Can technology improve this? Can this process become simpler? Those questions have created industries worth trillions of dollars. Chapter 3. Thinking in decades, not days. Modern society rewards speed. Fast internet. Fast delivery. Instant entertainment. Instant communication. We've become accustomed to immediate results, but wealth rarely follows that timeline. Many of the world's greatest fortunes were built slowly, long before they became overnight success stories. Imagine planting two trees. One grows rapidly. Within a few years, it reaches its full height, but it remains fragile. The other grows much more slowly. Year after year, its roots spread deeper into the ground. Its trunk becomes stronger. Its foundation becomes almost impossible to shake. Decades later, the second tree still stands. Business often works the same way. Companies built for quick profits may produce impressive short-term results, but organizations designed for decades create lasting wealth. This long-term mindset separates many billionaires from average investors, while others focus on quarterly profits. Visionary entrepreneurs ask, where will this company be 10 years from now? Instead of maximizing today's earnings, they invest in tomorrow's growth. That approach often requires patience, and patience is becoming increasingly rare. Many people abandon their goals because results don't appear immediately. They expect dramatic success after a few months. When it doesn't happen, they switch careers, change businesses, start over, repeat. Years pass, but because they constantly restart, nothing has enough time to grow. Meanwhile, the people who eventually achieve extraordinary success keep building on the same foundation. Small improvements accumulate. Skills deepen, experience grows, networks expand. Trust increases. Eventually, momentum takes over, and momentum is one of the most powerful forces in business. The hidden power of compounding. Most people understand compound interest. Few understand compound effort. Imagine improving by just 1% every single day. At first, the difference is almost invisible. One extra page read, one additional customer served well, one better decision, one improved habit. Individually, these actions seem insignificant, but over years, they create extraordinary results. Knowledge compounds. Every book teaches something new. Skills compound. Every project makes you more capable. Relationships compound. Every meaningful connection opens future opportunities. Reputation compounds. Every promise you keep increases trust. Business compounds. Every satisfied customer can become a referral. Successful entrepreneurs understand this principle deeply. Instead of chasing dramatic breakthroughs every week, they focus on becoming slightly better every day. Eventually, those tiny improvements become impossible to ignore. This is why so many billionaires appear to become dramatically richer later in life. They're not suddenly working 10 times harder. Their previous decades of work have finally reached a scale where compounding becomes visible. People notice the explosion. They rarely notice the years of preparation that made it possible. Playing the infinite game. Most people approach success like a sprint. Billionaires approach it like a marathon. They understand that winning isn't about today's performance alone, it's about remaining in the game long enough for great opportunities to appear. Businesses fail, markets change, technology evolves, economic crises happen. The people who survive these challenges often emerge stronger, not because they predicted every problem, but because they built resilient systems capable of adapting. Long-term thinking isn't simply about patience, it's about making decisions that your future self will thank you for. Every investment. Every habit. Every skill. Every relationship, every decision, should move you one step closer to the person you're trying to become. Because success isn't built in a single breakthrough, it's built through thousands of thoughtful decisions repeated over many years. And that brings us to another characteristic shared by nearly every self-made billionaire. They aren't afraid of failure. In fact, they often see failure very differently from everyone else, because sometimes, the lessons hidden inside failure become the foundation of extraordinary success. Failure is something most people fear. Billionaires expect it. That doesn't mean they enjoy losing. It means they understand that failure is often the price of discovering what works. Every successful entrepreneur has a collection of stories they rarely talk about. Businesses that never made a profit, products that customers ignored, investments that lost money, ideas that seemed brilliant until reality proved otherwise. When we look at successful people today, we usually see the finished product, the billion-dollar company, the interviews, the awards, the headlines. What we don't see are the years of uncertainty that came before, the countless mistakes, the rejected proposals, the sleepless nights wondering if everything would fall apart. Success often hides its own history. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. No one expects to stay balanced on the first attempt. You fall, you adjust, you try again. Each mistake teaches your brain something new. Business works much the same way. Every failed attempt contains information. The only true failure is refusing to learn from it. That's why successful entrepreneurs rarely ask, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, they ask, what can this teach me? That single question transforms failure from an ending into a lesson, and over time, those lessons become experience. Experience becomes judgment, and good judgment creates better decisions. Every challenge carries two possibilities. You can allow it to define you, or you can allow it to develop you. History repeatedly shows that many great companies were built during difficult times, economic recessions, financial crises, technological disruption. While most people saw uncertainty, others saw opportunity. Why? Because difficult times expose problems that need solving, and where problems exist, opportunities often follow. This doesn't mean every setback is secretly good. Some failures are painful, some are expensive, some take years to recover from, but successful entrepreneurs accept a simple truth: progress rarely follows a straight line. Every setback contains information that can improve the next attempt. The goal isn't to avoid mistakes. The goal is to avoid repeating them. Imagine two people standing before the same opportunity. They have similar knowledge, similar resources, and similar ambitions. 10 years later, one has built a thriving business. The other is still waiting for success to arrive. What changed? Often, it wasn't intelligence, it was the quality of their decisions. Life is shaped by thousands of choices. Most seem insignificant in the moment. Whether to save or spend, learn or procrastinate, take action or wait, accept discomfort or remain comfortable. Individually, these decisions feel small. Collectively, they determine your future. That's why many billionaires treat decision-making like a skill, not a guess, not luck. A skill that improves with practice. Instead of reacting emotionally, they slow down, they gather information, they consider long-term consequences. Only then do they act. Because rushed decisions often create expensive problems, thoughtful decisions create lasting opportunities. One of the biggest enemies of good decisions is emotion. Fear. Excitement. Greed. Pride. All of them influence human judgment. Markets rise. People become overly optimistic. Markets fall. People panic. Businesses experience setbacks. Many quit. Yet, successful entrepreneurs understand something important. Emotions are temporary. Decisions can last for decades. That's why they work hard to separate feelings from facts. When everyone is celebrating, they remain cautious. When everyone is afraid, they remain curious. They ask questions instead of following the crowd. They seek evidence instead of opinions. Because history has shown that crowds are often driven by emotion rather than logic. The ability to think independently becomes a competitive advantage, especially when everyone else is reacting impulsively. Imagine someone gives you two options: receive $1,000 today, or wait a few years and receive $10,000 instead. Which would you choose? Most people naturally prefer immediate rewards. It's human nature, but many successful entrepreneurs train themselves to think differently. They willingly sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term freedom. Instead of spending every raise, they invest. Instead of buying status symbols, they buy productive assets. Instead of seeking instant gratification, they focus on future opportunities. This habit doesn't require extraordinary income, it requires extraordinary discipline. Because every dollar saved and invested today has the potential to become many more tomorrow. Delayed gratification isn't about denying yourself forever, it's about understanding timing. The most successful people often postpone luxury until they've built a strong financial foundation. Freedom first, lifestyle second. People often believe money is the world's most valuable asset. Time is every billionaire, every student, every employee. Every entrepreneur receives exactly 24 hours each day. No one gets more. The difference lies in how those hours are used. Many people spend their time reacting, checking notifications, scrolling endlessly, responding to distractions, moving from one interruption to another. Successful entrepreneurs protect their attention with remarkable discipline, because attention determines focus. Focus determines productivity, and productivity determines results. They understand that every unnecessary distraction carries an invisible cost. Not just minutes, momentum. Deep thinking requires uninterrupted time. That's where creative ideas emerge. That's where difficult problems are solved. That's where long-term strategies are built. The modern world constantly competes for your attention. Successful people choose where to invest it. One of the biggest misconceptions about billionaires is that they stop learning once they become successful. The opposite is usually true. Success often increases. Curiosity. Markets change. Technology evolves. Consumer behavior shifts. Industries transform. Standing still becomes dangerous. That's why many successful entrepreneurs continue reading, studying, asking questions, and surrounding themselves with intelligent people. They understand that knowledge has no finish line. Every new skill expands future possibilities. Every lesson improves future decisions, and every improvement strengthens long-term success. Because in a rapidly changing world, the greatest risk isn't failure, it's becoming comfortable with what you already know. So far, we've uncovered the habits that shape extraordinary success: solving meaningful problems, thinking decades ahead, learning from failure, making better decisions, protecting time, controlling emotions. But perhaps the greatest advantage of all isn't intelligence, or money, or even experience. It's leverage, the ability to create results far beyond what one person could accomplish alone. And that's exactly where our journey continues. In the next chapter, we'll explore how billionaires multiply their impact through systems, technology, teams, and ownership, and why thinking like an owner changes everything. Imagine trying to build a skyscraper with nothing but your own hands. No machines, no engineers, no architects, no workers. It would take a lifetime. Now imagine having a skilled team, powerful technology, modern equipment, and proven systems. The same goal suddenly becomes possible. This is the power of leverage. One of the biggest reasons billionaires create extraordinary wealth isn't because they work harder than everyone else, it's because they've learned how to multiply the value of every hour they work. Most people exchange time for money. Billionaires build systems that create value, even when they're not actively working. Instead of relying only on their own effort, they use powerful forms of leverage: people, technology, capital, and systems. Each one allows them to achieve far more than a single individual ever could alone. Think about the world's largest companies. Millions of customers, thousands of employees, automated technology, global operations. None of it depends on one person working 24 hours a day. It depends on systems that continue operating long after the founder has gone home. That's one of the greatest shifts in thinking. Employees sell their time. Owners build systems, and systems can continue producing value for years. There's another lesson nearly every successful entrepreneur eventually learns. You cannot build something extraordinary alone. At first, many founders try to do everything themselves. Marketing, sales, customer support, accounting, operations, eventually they discover a hard truth. Doing everything means mastering nothing. The world's greatest companies aren't built by one genius. They're built by teams of talented people working toward the same vision. Great leaders understand this. They hire people who are better than themselves in specific areas. Instead of trying to know everything, they surround themselves with experts. Because leadership isn't about having all the answers, it's about bringing together the right people to find them. When talented individuals work together toward a shared goal, their combined impact becomes far greater than the sum of their individual efforts. That's leverage in action. One of the most significant mindset shifts happens when people stop thinking like employees and start thinking like owners. An employee naturally asks, "What do I need to finish today?" An owner asks, "How can this system become better tomorrow?" Employees complete tasks. Owners improve processes. Employees focus on their responsibilities. Owners focus on the entire organization. This mindset doesn't require owning $1 billion company. You can think like an owner in any career. Take responsibility. Look for improvements. Solve problems before someone asks. Create value wherever you are. People who consistently think like owners often become leaders because leadership begins long before the title arrives. Another powerful advantage shared by many billionaires is their network. Success rarely happens in isolation. Every business depends on customers, partners, employees, mentors, suppliers, relationships. Create opportunities that money alone cannot buy. That's why successful entrepreneurs invest heavily in trust. They keep their promises. They protect their reputation. They treat relationships as long-term investments rather than short-term transactions. Over time, those relationships begin creating opportunities that would never appear otherwise. Trust compounds, just like money. One introduction leads to another. One successful partnership opens the door to the next. Eventually, the network itself becomes an asset. Take a moment to think about the people we've discussed throughout this documentary. They came from different countries, different backgrounds, different industries. Some built software, some invested, some created products, some transformed entire markets. Yet despite all those differences, their thinking followed remarkably similar patterns. They focused on value before profit. They embraced long-term thinking. They viewed failure as education. They protected their attention. They invested in themselves, and above all, they kept moving forward while others gave up. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. Your biggest competition isn't another entrepreneur. It isn't another company. It isn't another billionaire. It's the person you were yesterday. Every book you read, every skill you develop, every mistake you learn from, every disciplined decision you make, moves you one step closer to the future you're trying to build. Will everyone become a billionaire? Probably not. Statistics make that incredibly unlikely. But becoming a billionaire was never the only lesson. The real lesson is becoming the kind of person who consistently creates value. Because value attracts opportunity. Opportunity creates growth, and growth, repeated over time, has the power to completely transform a life. Success isn't determined by a single breakthrough. It's built through thousands of small decisions made when no one is watching. That's the real billionaire formula. Not magic, not shortcuts, not luck alone, but disciplined thinking, consistent action, continuous learning, and the courage to keep building, even when progress feels invisible, because one day the results everyone calls overnight success will simply be the visible outcome of years of invisible effort. So, the next time you ask yourself how billionaires are made, remember this: they aren't defined by the money they earn, they're defined by the value they create, and that journey begins with a single decision. The decision to start today. If you enjoyed this documentary and discovered a new way of thinking about wealth and success, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more in-depth documentaries on business, history, psychology, and the world's most successful people. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which billionaire habit do you think has the greatest impact on long-term success? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if there's another entrepreneur, company, or business story you'd like us to explore, let us know. It might become our next documentary. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and remember, extraordinary success is never built in a day, it is built one smart decision at a time. One of the most significant mindset shifts happens when people stop thinking like employees and start thinking like owners. An employee naturally asks, "What do I need to finish today?" An owner asks, "How can this system become better tomorrow?" Employees complete tasks. Owners improve processes. Employees focus on their responsibilities. Owners focus on the entire organization. This mindset doesn't require owning a billion-dollar company. You can think like an owner in any career. Take responsibility. Look for improvements. Solve problems before someone asks. Create value wherever you are. People who consistently think like owners often become leaders because leadership begins long before the title arrives. Another powerful advantage shared by many billionaires is their network. Success rarely happens in isolation. Every business depends on customers, partners, employees, mentors, investors, suppliers, relationships. Create opportunities that money alone cannot buy. That's why successful entrepreneurs invest heavily in trust. They keep their promises. They protect their reputation. They treat relationships as long-term investments rather than short-term transactions. Over time, those relationships begin creating opportunities that would never appear otherwise. Trust compounds, just like money. One introduction leads to another. One successful partnership opens the door to the next. Eventually, the network itself becomes an asset. Take a moment to think about the people we've discussed throughout this documentary. They came from different countries, different backgrounds, different industries. Some built software, some invested, some created products, some transformed entire markets. Yet despite all those differences, their thinking followed remarkably similar patterns. They focused on value before profit. They embraced long-term thinking. They viewed failure as education. They protected their attention. They invested in themselves, and above all, they kept moving forward while others gave up. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. Your biggest competition isn't another entrepreneur. It isn't another company, it isn't another billionaire, it's the person you were yesterday. Every book you read, every skill you develop, every mistake you learn from, every disciplined decision you make, moves you one step closer to the future you're trying to build. Will everyone become a billionaire? Probably not. Statistics make that incredibly unlikely, but becoming a billionaire was never the only lesson. The real lesson is becoming the kind of person who consistently creates value, because value attracts opportunity. Opportunity creates growth, and growth, repeated over time, has the power to completely transform a life. Success isn't determined by a single breakthrough. It's built through thousands of small decisions made when no one is watching. That's the real billionaire formula. Not magic, not shortcuts, not luck alone, but disciplined thinking, consistent action, continuous learning, and the courage to keep building, even when progress feels invisible. Because one day, the results everyone calls overnight success will simply be the visible outcome of years of invisible effort. So, the next time you ask yourself how billionaires are made, remember this: they aren't defined by the money they earn, they're defined by the value they create, and that journey begins with a single decision: the decision to start today. If you enjoyed this documentary and discovered a new way of thinking about wealth and success, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more in-depth documentaries on business, history, psychology, and the world's most successful people. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which billionaire habit do you think has the greatest impact on long-term success? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if there's another entrepreneur, company, or business story you'd like us to explore, let us know. It might become our next documentary. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and remember, extraordinary success is never built in a dit, is built one smart decision at a time.